My name is Lisa Fader. I'm the owner of Being Well Yoga and the author of A Year of Mindful Wellness. This is a brief yoga practice that you can do any time of day to help bring yourself into the present moment, using the practice to find balance and center and comfort and ease in the body. We'll start our practice today in a seated position, and you can take any seated position that you'd like to take. Go ahead and bring your hands either on the mat by your side or on the knees and lift your heart, shoulders away from the ears. And then turn your palms to face the sky. And in this way, we open to the practice. We have a receptive hand position or mudra for the practice. And then join your thumb and index finger together for Gyan Mudra or the knowledge seal. This connects us to our inner wisdom. If you're comfortable, close your eyes and bring your eyes to your third eye point, which is just between and above the eyebrows and inside the center of the head. And start to notice your breath. We take the first few moments of the practice to become present. So let go of whatever you were doing before this. Let go of whatever's coming next, and just be here in this moment with the breath. And then notice what you have with you, what you've brought to your mat, things that can't necessarily be seen, but what thoughts are with you and what physical sensations, energies, emotions, and just become aware of that and allow for that so that we understand what we bring to the mat and we can move from here. And then once you've noticed what you have with you, set an intention for this practice. What would you like to cultivate during this time? Patience, presence, awareness, kindness towards yourself, anything at all that you would like to cultivate in this practice. And just breathe that in. And then when you're ready, if the eyes are closed, let the eyes open. Extend the hands. And we'll come into our first posture, which is cat-cow. And you'll come into a tabletop position. So you'll just turn and place your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. The back of the neck is long, just this natural extension of the spine. And if you can, the tops of the feet are stretching. Elbows are a little bit soft and the body is strong. On your inhale, fill the body with the breath just to begin. And on your exhale, beginning with the tailbone, the tip of the tailbone, drop the tailbone and round the back body up towards the sky, head dropping, spreading the space between the shoulder blades. And on your inhale, lengthen the spine and lift the heart. Keeping the spine nice and long, opening up, maybe the throat stretches slightly, and on your exhale, you'll round the back body. So in our practice, we'll match movement and breath. And we'll find this fluidity in the spine. So many people have issues with the low back. You want to be very gentle with this. But finding this movement and fluidity in the spine can be really helpful for beginning the practice. Also, this connection of the breath and the movement helps us to be present. So just feel into this. If you do have tenderness in the wrists, do a few rounds and then take a break. We want to strengthen the wrists over time, but it does take some time. And for your practice, maybe do about 3 or 4 rounds. I'll do them with you until you feel a little bit of warmth coming into the body. Maybe there's a sense of awakening. Maybe there's some easing of some stiffness or tightness or tension in the back. Good. Let's do one more just like this. Rounding the back body. And then lengthening the spine. Then just come back to a neutral position. Maybe let out a sigh. Good. And then from here, we'll bring the body down onto the mat, all the way down onto the belly for Sphinx pose. So start by just stretching the body face down on the mat. And let's just make a pillow for the forehead with the hands just for a moment. Just to get a sense of the breath here once again. On your inhalation, breathe in, you feel your belly press into the mat and the back body expand a little bit. And on the exhale, let the belly pull gently away from the mat. Feel the ribs hug you. And then when you're ready, prop yourself up onto your forearms. This is called Sphinx pose. Elbows underneath the shoulders, lift the heart. Good. So this puts the spine back into its natural shape. We're so used to rounding forward over computers and desks that this can be really helpful. It may feel a little bit odd, and you may find that your shoulders tire at the beginning. Take breaks as you need to. Stretch the legs behind you. Unsqueeze the backs of the legs. There's no need to squeeze the back body. Let the heart draw forward. And just begin to move into the flow of the breath. You can imagine perhaps that you're drawing your heart forward and pulling your elbows back towards your ribs. That may help you engage these muscles a little more. And let's give this about 6 more breaths. Relax the jaw. Soften the face. Feel into the sensations. Feel into the strengthening here. If you need to take a break, take a break. Anything sharp, any sharp pain is something that is an indication that you need to stop. You want to find an edge where you know that you are getting stronger and more flexible, but not hurting yourself. 1 more breath here. And then gently lower the body down. Place your head on your hands once again. From here, we'll bring the hands under the shoulders and press back up to table just as part of this transition. So feeling the spine come into a neutral position once again. We don't want to move too quickly between postures. There's no need. And we also want to notice what happens during these transitions and feel into the changes that are happening. From tabletop, we'll sweep the legs around and come onto the back. Once you're on your back, let the shoulders just melt into the mat. Back body melts into the mat. Take your feet a little wide and just sway the knees very gently side to side. A little bit of gentle movement before we come into our twist. Then bring the feet back in line with the hips and take the arms out by your sides. You might make the arms like goalpost or saguaro cactus arms, or you might stretch the arms out from the shoulders. From here, press your feet into the mat and lift the hips about 1 inch off the mat and move them about 3 inches over to the left and let your knees drop to the right. Just let them drop. You may want to place a blanket underneath the lower leg if this feels like too much of a twist. And then we'll find the rhythm of the breath for the twist. The inhalation lengthens the spine and the exhalation softens the rib cage. This twist is happening in the rib area of the body, not the low back. The low back is great. We want stability there, right? But the rib cage, we want a little bit more flexibility because it's a very rigid part of the body. So our practice is about bringing balance, making the more rigid parts of the body a little more movable, the more movable parts of the body a little stable. So twist is really helpful for that in the rib cage, just softening here. You can look over your left shoulder if you'd like to, or you can keep the head in a neutral position. Maybe about 3 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, you'll come back onto the back and just feel what it's like to come out of this twist. So take a moment to feel the sensations here. Back of the neck is long. Notice what's going on one side of the body and on the other. And sway the knees a little bit side to side again. Just giving the low back a little massage. And then when you're ready, place the feet on the mat, lifting the hips, moving them about 3 inches over to the right this time, and dropping the knees to the left. This side will feel different. And that's fine. So making sure that if you do need to place a blanket or something underneath the lower leg, if this twist is too much, then place something underneath the leg. It'll give you a little bit of propping and you'll take care of yourself. Over time, you may find more movement or maybe not. You do what feels right in the practice. You might look over the right shoulder, or you might keep the head in a neutral position, and on your inhale, lengthen the spine. And on your exhale, soften into the twist. Relax the jaw, The action of the twist is like wringing out a washcloth. So you want to let go of what you don't need on the exhale, and on the inhale you can bring in what's new and fresh that you do need. Take about 3 more breaths here. And when you have those 3 breaths, you'll come back onto the back slowly, feeling your way into it, noticing each moment of this practice, realigning the spine, letting the arms come down by your sides. Taking a few breaths here, swaying the knees side to side. Nice. Good. From here, we're going to take our time, but we will transition and come up to a standing position. So very gently hug the knees in, feel the length in the spine, roll over to one side, either side is fine, and then gently press yourself up to a seated position. Our next posture is a forward fold, and for this you might want to use a block, so I'm going to bring a block and place it right in front of me. And you'll start standing, feet about hip width apart, and find a sense of balance. You may sway a little bit at first until you find yourself balanced over the ball of the big toe, ball of the pinky toe, and the center of the heel. And we'll start by bringing the hands to the hips and a softness to the knees. So when we fold forward, there's no need to lock the knees or put any pressure on the knees or the back. Lengthen the spine, flexing at the hips, and then take your hands to your block. And you may want your block at the highest height or the middle height, maybe the lowest height. Maybe you don't need the block at all and you bring your hands to the mat. Let the weight come towards the balls of the feet and let the head hang, allowing the head to feel heavy, the back of the neck to stretch, the backs of the legs will feel this stretch. And just give this a breath or two. If you feel too much pressure on the low back or this is not great for the low back, then you'll come up just halfway. You don't need to fold all the way. If you're folding all the way, allow everything to just drip and drape forward. Finding the breath, filling the body and emptying the body as always, and then bringing the hands to the thighs, coming up slowly, dropping the hips, chin towards the throat, and roll yourself up very slowly. Press your feet into those, keep the eyes open. If you tend to get lightheaded, moving from down to up, go a little bit more slowly. Roll the shoulders onto the back. Let's do that again. You can continue with the hands at the hips, or you might want to reach the arms up and overhead. Soften the knees and fold with a long spine. Bring yourself down. Hands can come to your block or the mat. Or you might want to hold on to each opposite elbow with the hand and drape down. This will give you a little bit more. So if you need a little more edge, this might be what you want to do. And then you can sway side to side. Continuing to allow the breath to flow. So making sure you're not holding the breath. Staying for just another moment or two. And then once again, bringing the hands to the thighs this time, dropping the hips, pressing onto the thighs, eyes open, and rolling all the way up. Shoulders come onto the back, the eyes open. Good. And when we're standing, we're never just hanging out. We're rooted, we're lifted, we're present. Good. And you can continue with those forward folds. Another variation is to bring the hands behind the back and interlace the fingers. If the hands don't clasp behind the back, they don't reach, you can bring your hands to your low back. Roll the shoulders onto the back, soften the knees, and once again fold forward. Since we're not using the arms here, you'll need a sense of balance a little bit, or you may feel like you're a little bit tipping forward. Keep an evenness to the breath, an evenness to the feet, a softness to the elbows. Give this about 3 breaths. There's no particular place you have to be on this fold. Just fold until you feel the sensation of a stretch through the shoulders, the backs of the legs, and that heaviness in the head. When you're ready to come up, bring the clasped hands to the base of the spine, bend the knees, and lift yourself up. You might try coming up with a nice long back, using your clasped hands to pull down and lift your heart. Let the hands come by your sides, and just notice how you feel. Take a moment or two. start in a straddle position on your mat with the outer edges of the feet parallel to one another, hands to the hips, shoulders down. And you'll pivot on your right heel and spin your right toes out towards the short end of your mat. And then bend your right knee. And if you notice, your right knee should be right over your ankle. So from this position, my knee's a little bit in front of my ankle. So I'm just going to scoot my foot out a little bit, my back foot back a little bit, so that there is a nice line here from my ankle to knee, and there's an outer rotation in the hip. Once I have the lower body set, I'll reach the arms out just below the shoulders for broadness across the heart and look over the right fingertips. So let your gaze just be steady, steadfast. Take up a lot of space with this. Breathe right to left. Fill the body with the breath. Relax the face. Feel into the strength in the body. Give it another breath or two. When you're ready to come out, press your feet into the mat and lengthen the right leg. Bring the hands to the hips and spin the toes to the center. Take just a moment here. You may want to circle the hips a little bit in between sides. Maybe rock the hips from side to side. Good. And then it's time for the other side, so you'll spin the left toes to the left. Now my stance is a little wider, so it's likely that I'll be just in the right place, but otherwise I'll just widen my stance a little bit. Good. Opening up the hips, and when you're ready, let the arms float up. Reaching the hands just below the shoulders so that the shoulders don't lift up to the ears and we don't create any tension there. Fingers together, look over the left hand and take some nice deep breaths, feeling into your strength, feeling this expansion across the heart. Mindful and present, steady and steadfast. And then lengthening the left leg to come out, turning the toes in. Maybe heel toeing the feet just a little bit closer together, circling the hips in one direction, circling the hips in the other, and then continuing to heel toe the feet together, coming back to standing. And again, just notice how you feel. So check in after every posture. How do you feel? What's shifting? What's changing? How's the breath? Where's the mind? And then we'll come back onto the mat to finish the practice. This posture is called Janu Shirshasana, head to knee pose. I don't expect your head to go all the way to the knee, but it is a nice stretch for the hips. Extending the left leg out, just right in front of the hip. Place the right foot on the left leg. Depending on how tight your hamstrings are, you may want to place a block underneath your knee for a little bit of softness. You may also want to use a block underneath the right knee if it's lifting way up from the ground. So that's always an option, and we'll always have a block handy just in case. From here, you'll turn towards your left leg, and you will reach the arms up and overhead. Draw the heart forward. When you can't go any further without rounding the back, root your sitting bones down. So root down to the earth, lower your hands down. Continue to lengthen with the hands down if there's any more space that you can go. Maybe this is where you stay. If it feels okay for your low back to gently round the back, you can lower down a little more. Again, not worrying about how low you go, but rather the sensation where you feel you found your edge, where you feel that you have found that edge, where you can make some change in the body without hurting yourself. So you should feel something. There's some sensation here, and we just breathe into it. That's a great practice for staying present, is to put ourselves in some sensation and ask ourselves to stay without getting upset, without distracting ourselves, just being here with all that is. So take a few breaths here. Relax the jaw, keep the jaw relaxed. This foot can be relaxed. You could point the toes if that's interesting, or flex the foot for a little bit more sensation. And let's just take 6 more breaths here. Not rushing the breaths. And when you have those 6 breaths, using your hands to help lengthen the spine as you lift back up. Keep breathing here. Maybe let out a sigh. And then we'll extend the right leg. Just pause for a moment in between. Maybe rock side to side on the hips. It's always nice to do something to bring yourself back to a neutral place in between sides. And then when you're ready, you will bring your left foot to the right leg. And this side's going to be different. So let go of whatever happened on the other side and be present with what is right here. Good. Maybe you use your block under the knee, under either knee for support, maybe under both. And when you're ready, reach the arms up. Draw the heart forward. Maybe you don't go quite as far on this side, or maybe you go a little bit farther. You'll see. When you can't go anymore without rounding the spine, let the hands come down. Pause here for a moment. Maybe with the hands down, you can bring the heart a little bit forward. Again, not straining, not overdoing, but finding that edge. If it's okay for the back to continue on, you can surrender over. Letting the head drop, letting the back round a little bit. Bringing the hands on the leg or the mat, bending the elbows. Feeling into the sensation again, not getting upset or distracted, just being here with what is. Maybe imagining that on the inhalation, the breath is coming in and giving you some space where you feel tight. On the exhalation, maybe you sense a softening, and stay here for 6 more breaths. Relax the shoulders, relax the jaw. Maybe as you continue to breathe, you do feel a little softening and you find just a little more space. Maybe not. Maybe there's resistance. Just breathe into whatever it is. When you're ready, use the hands to help you walk back up. Sit nice and tall, shoulders down. Extend the left leg. Let out a sigh. And rock the hips side to side. Good. The last posture in this practice that we'll do is bridge pose. Some of you may be familiar with that. We'll come back onto the back. You might still want to keep a block handy for bridge. There's several ways we could use it. For bridge, you don't want anything underneath your neck or shoulders. You want a little bit of space under the neck, in fact. And the heels coming close to the hips, arms by your sides. Press the ball of the big toe and the ball of the pinky toe in the center of the heel into the mat. Imagine the arches lifting and the toes stretching. On your next inhale, peel the back body off the mat. Lifting the hips, keeping the spine nice and long, thinking more about length in the spine than arch in the spine. Press the shoulder blades into the mat, the back of the head a little bit. And just take a breath or two here. Feel the stretch across the heart. And on the exhale, lower the hips down. Taking your time, gently lowering the back onto the mat. There are a lot of variations you can do with this. You could just flow into that bridge. You could take a block and place it between the knees, just above the knees, in fact, and give it a hug to encourage the inner thigh muscles, to activate the inner thigh muscles to help give you support in the low back. So with this block between the thighs, we'll do just the same thing. You'll lift up, opening the heart, pressing the heel, the ball of the foot, big toe and pinky into the mat. Lift up, press the shoulder blades into the mat. And on the exhale, lower down. Slowly. Let's say you're feeling very tired one day. You want a gentle heart opener, but not quite that much. You can lift the hips enough to slide the block either at its lowest or the middle height and place that right under the sacrum so it's a supported bridge. You get a little more support here. Still the heart opens. And you might even be able to spend a little more time with this, so you can always pause this video and just spend a little more time here. Relax the jaw. Relax the cheeks. And allow the upper body to stretch. And then when it's time to come out, you'll just lift the back body enough to take that block away and lower gently back onto the mat. When the back body touches, you can relax. If you want just a little bit more, you can lift up into your bridge pose, inhaling to lift the spine. And when the hips are lifted, you can walk the shoulders underneath you a little more and clasp the hands, pressing the pinky edge of the hand onto the mat to open behind the heart a little more. You may find that that helps you open up the front body a little more. Pressing the back of the head into the mat, relaxing the face. Taking just a few breaths here. So there's lots of variations, and I encourage you to try different ones to see what works for you. These bridge poses and heart openers can be very awakening, so it's a nice thing to do early in the day. Take the hands apart, walk the shoulders out, and very gently lower the spine onto the mat. Feel the back body relax into the mat. You may feel like you'd like to hug the knees in at this point, and if you would, go ahead and hug the knees in. If that's not necessary, or you feel like you'd like to sway the knees, that's fine too. Just allowing everything to settle back. Maybe you do both. Maybe you hug the knees in and then sway them side to side. And then bringing the knees to the center, it's now time to prepare for Shavasana, which is corpse pose in which we do our deep relaxation. It's a very important part of the practice. You may find that you lengthen the body on the mat and you feel great. Then just stay here and that's your Shavasana. But you may find that you lengthen the body on the mat and your lower back doesn't feel great. In that case, you'll gather something, and I'll show you. Maybe you take a bolster or maybe a blanket and you'll place something underneath your knees so that the low back can relax a little bit more. I'm going to use a bolster today. You place that bolster right under the knees. Maybe you just do a rolled blanket and then come back onto your back. If you're cold, you can always put a blanket over you. Palms can be face down or face up. I find that face down, you can be a little more internally focused, a little calmer. Face up, a little more open to what's around you. The eyes will close. And in this posture, we do nothing. You do nothing. And that's challenging for us sometimes with all of the busyness in our lives. So allow the eyes to close. And know that the earth will support you. So you don't have to tense any of your muscles. You can relax the muscles. Let the body just melt into the support of the earth. And the breath will flow. You don't have to do anything for the breath to flow. So allow for that. There may be times during Shavasana when the mind gets busy again, and if that's the case, just notice your thoughts. For now, see if you can allow them to dissolve so that you can just relax, restore, and breathe. And we'll just stay here for a few moments. If you'd like to stay here longer, you can pause the video and stay here a little longer. When you're ready, begin to gently deepen and lengthen the breath. And bring your awareness back to your physical body resting on the mat. Allow an exhalation to come out as a sigh. And when you're ready, add gentle movement. You can brush the thumbs across the fingertips. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes. Circle the hands on the wrists and circle the feet on the ankles in one direction and then the other. On an inhale, just give yourself a big stretch. Reach the arms up and overhead. And on your exhale, bring one knee and then the other in towards you. Just hug the knees in, rock a little bit side to side. Reawaken, come back to this moment. Roll over onto one side and make a pillow for your head with your hands and just rest here for a moment, giving yourself time to come back from this practice, this time of just being back into your waking life. And then press yourself up to a seated position. If you had a bolster, maybe move that out of the way so you can come back to sit. bring your palms together at the heart. This is a hand position called Anjali Mudra, just a sign of gratitude for this practice. And as you close your eyes, take a moment to thank yourself for taking the time to move slowly, to breathe, to notice, to be mindfully well and present. And it's traditional at the end of a practice that the teacher will say to the students, Namaste, and the students will repeat that. And this simply means I see you, I name you, I know what is best about you, and you see the same in me. So I'll say to you, Namaste. Thank you for being here.